Yes, let's go ahead and let's find out what happens next. I see that you are in the habit of eating a heavy luncheon. So the lady starts criticizing the writer for ordering the dish mutton chop. She feels that eating mutton chop for luncheon is not at all correct, and it would be a very heavy dish for the luncheon. I'm sure it's a mistake. She tells the writer that the writer was making a mistake by eating mutton chop for the luncheon. Why don't you follow my example and just eat one thing? Now, the lady had already eaten two dishes, salmon and caviar, but still she was asking the writer to follow her example, and still she was saying to have only one thing for the luncheon. I couldn't possibly eat anything more unless they had some of those giant asparagus. And on the top of it, she expresses her wish to eat giant asparagus. That is the third dish. I should be sorry to leave Paris without having some of them. And she tells the writer that she would be very disappointed if she leaves Paris without eating giant asparagus. Asparagus is a plant with long green stems and tiny leaves that is cooked and eaten as food. You can see the dish here in the image. So she expresses her wish to eat giant asparagus. My heart sank, and the moment the writer uh, hears that the lady wishes to eat giant asparagus, the writer's heart sank. He felt disappointed, he felt discouraged. I had seen them in the shops and I knew that they were horribly expensive. Now, why he felt discouraged? The reason was that giant asparagus was a very expensive dish. He knew about it. My mouth had often watered at the sight of them. Every time he had seen giant asparagus in the shop, the writer was tempted to taste the dish, but he was unable to because it was very expensive. I'm not in the least hungry, my guest sighed, and the lady made it very clear to the writer that she was not at all hungry. But if you insist, I don't mind having some asparagus. But instead, told the writer it was only because of his insistence, because he was forcing her to have giant asparagus. That was the reason why she would like to taste giant asparagus. I ordered them, and the writer was helpless. He had to place an order for giant asparagus. Aren't you going to have any? And the lady also asked the writer whether he would like to have asparagus. No, I never eat asparagus. Now, the writer was really tempted to taste asparagus, but just because he did not have enough money, or we would say that he knew that the dish was so expensive, he tells the lady that he never ate asparagus. We waited for the asparagus to be cooked, so they had to wait for some time for the giant asparagus dish to be cooked. Panic seized me. During that time, the writer was captured. Seized means captured by panic. He was very afraid and he was very anxious. It was not a question now of how much money I should have left over for the rest of the month, but whether I had enough to pay the bill. Now he had forgotten about that how much money he would be left for the entire month, rest of the month, for his expenses, for his needs. But now he was only worried about the bill, that what amount will be there in the bill and whether he will be able to pay it or not. It would be mortifying to find myself 10 francs short and be obliged to borrow from my guest. And the calculation which he had done, he felt that it would be very mortifying, very foolish, very embarrassing, that he would be short of 10 francs, and maybe he has to borrow it from his guest, that is the lady. I knew exactly how much I had, and if the bill came to more, and he was knowing that how much money he was having, and how much the bill would come, and if it would come more, then he has to borrow it from his guest. I made up my mind that I would put my hand in my pocket and with a dramatic cry start up and say it had been picked. So he was thinking various ways and means that what excuses he would give if he is not able to pay the bill. So one thing which came in his mind was that he would just put his hand in the pocket and he would do a bit of drama. There he would just cry. He would just shout. Cry here means dramatic. Cry here means he would shout. He would do a bit of acting, and he would announce it to the people that his pocket was picked, his purse was stolen. Of course, it would be awkward if she had not money enough either to pay the bill. Now, he initially had thought that he had to borrow, he would have to borrow the money from the lady. But there was a thought in his mind that if even the lady didn't have enough money to pay the bill, then what? Then the only thing would be to leave my watch and say I would come back and pay later. Then finally, he just thought that yes, if the lady also didn't have enough money to pay the bill, then he would just leave his watch uh, with the authorities of the restaurant, and later on he would get the money, pay the bill, and then take the watch back. So this was how he was thinking, and he had become very anxious because now he was really worried about the bill. The asparagus appeared, so finally the dish was served. I watched her thrust them down her throat in large mouthfuls. At last she finished. So when the lady had already told the writer that she was not hungry, and it was only due to his insistence that she was having this dish of asparagus. But as soon as the dish was served, the lady was thrusting the asparagus down her throat. She was pushing the asparagus down her throat in large morsels. Mouthful means in large morsels, as if she was very, very hungry. At last, she completed the dish. Coffee, I said, and the author offered the lady whether she would like to have coffee. Yes, just an ice cream and coffee, she answered. And she just told the writer, not only coffee, but I would also like to have ice cream. I was past caring now. Now the writer had stopped worrying about the bill. He had stopped caring about the bill. So I ordered coffee for myself and an ice cream and coffee for her. You know, there is one thing I thoroughly believe in, she said. And the lady told the writer that she believes in something. And what was that? As she ate the ice cream. One should always get up from the meal feeling one could eat a little more. And what did she believe in? That one should have only that much uh, food for during the meals, uh, and one should get up from the meal feeling that one can eat a little bit more. So the stomach should be a bit empty when you get up from the meal. That is what the sentence says. Are you still hungry? I asked faintly. And when she told this belief of her, the writer was again shocked because he thought that the lady was still hungry by the belief which she had shared. and the writer felt that she wanted to eat something more, and therefore he asked very faintly, very weakly, very softly whether she was still hungry. Oh no, I'm not hungry. And she told that no, not at all. I'm not at all hungry. You see, I don't eat luncheon. So after eating 3 dishes and coffee and ice cream and everything, she is still saying that I don't eat luncheon. I have a cup of coffee in the morning and then dinner, but I never eat more than one thing for luncheon. She had already eaten so much, but still she was telling the writer that she does not have more than one thing for the luncheon. I was speaking for you, and this advice which she gave, or the belief which she shared with the writer, that one should get up from the meal feeling one could eat a little more, she says to the writer that it was for you, just because he had eaten the mutton chop. So you can just imagine what kind of a lady she was. Uh, well, children, we'll go to the next video and let's see what happens next.